I'll let you know when it's up.
Okay.
We're live.
We are?
That's what it says. I don't know if we're on Facebook or not, but we're live.
We live somewhere, right?
Yeah. I also don't know if people can like ask questions or not. There are comments. Live viewer comments show up on StreamYard. This is an example. Click on a comment to show it
Okay,
on
I
the
see
screen.
us. Yeah, we are live. We are live. Yeah, we live. We live.
Yeah.
I can see us on Facebook. Yep.
All right. Let's give it while we give it a minute, see if people hop in or how many people hop in.
We got one person in there so far.
Nice. Let's go. The commitment. Live viewers, Anthony McWinney.
Nice. All right. So we're finally on this thing. Finally, let the people know it was 1:00 Central, not Eastern.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that part.
So
We're
only
starting
8
at
minutes.
1:00 Central.
Right. That's the way it was supposed to be the whole time, folks.
I love that.
All right, so let's all those people that was in there before, see if you can tag some of them in there. Maybe we get I'll do some tagging for folks, but you can introduce the show. Let me see. 10. All right, so you want to get started? I think we're on. We are live right now at the moment. So I guess we can jump into the show while you continue to get people in. Let me see if I share with my people. Emotional harmony. Um, okay. All right. So I shared it with my audience as well. So we should have some people joining in. I can't tell how many people are looking on that side. Go here to Facebook. But we're live.
Jeez.
This is the first show, folks. So we should have did a bit of a mic check beforehand. That didn't really happen. So we had some technical difficulties getting started, but now we're here. And today we're going to be discussing how to use internal family systems for emotional control or emotional harmony during major life events. So I'm the co-host, Ty Cutner, and my host here, Anthony McWinney, is a part of Big Hill Movers, and he's going to be talking to the audience about, how do you go through when you're going through a move, divorce, move, an upgrade, a downgrade, college move, empty nesters. Like, how do you navigate those things emotionally? I'm going to teach you all a new tool called internal family systems, also known as IFS. So there's our introduction. Tony seemed like so Tony right now has a part for those who are watching, because Tony is zoomed in on trying to get people inside this thing, right? He does spit the whole time, all week, for the past 2 weeks. He's been promoting this thing, telling people he's going to be here to live. He has 60 people on there. Then the day comes and we couldn't get it to work. So now he has a part of him that's like, oh man, I done messed this up. I got to get it right. And now we finally got it on. And he wants to make sure that he has a decent amount of people here. So that's him blended with a part that is trying to make this thing all work. Is that accurate, Anthony?
It is accurate, although I'm unblended at this point. I'm ready to go.
All right, perfect. Let's get the show rolling.
Let's roll. So why is this important? This is important because for me in my situations, I had worked with Ty about a year, maybe a year and a half now. A year and a half ago, I worked with him, and I was like, there's no way. I was like very cautious about his approach and the psychotherapy, just because I had parts of me when I was younger, when I went through therapy and different things, that was just turned off by the idea. But after getting to know Ty through another group that we're involved in, I got to know him a little bit more. And then finally I went to a couple of his group sessions, and then I did some private sessions, and they worked really, really awesome for me in terms of just getting right with my parts, getting to know my parts, or getting to know my emotions from an observer point of view. So I'm observing my emotions instead of being in with my emotions. In other words, I knew I had different parts of me. Part of me wanted to do one thing, and a part of me wanted to do another thing. And I was conflicted, right? We all have these wars in our head. Like, a part of you wants to buy something, part of you doesn't want to buy something, or part of you wants to go to the movies, a part of you doesn't want to go to the movies, those types of things. But I was going through some healing, and I used IFS to go through some healing through some traumatic things in my life. And now I use IFS in the coaching realm in terms of what I'm doing in the future to set my goals, to go further in business and things of that nature. So Ty here is a best-selling author. He's a freaking legend in helping people healing their emotions and propelling them to the future while living in the present. So Ty, let's go, bro. What
Yes.
about internal family systems? How would that help people in my moving industry in terms of dealing with stress of the move? And maybe they're happy about the move, but maybe they're excited about it. Maybe they're sad about it. Maybe they have all these different emotions about it. How would someone in my audience benefit from this?
Yeah, so let me explain IFS, what it is and how it works, right? So IFS stands for Internal Family Systems. The psychotherapy model, been around for 40 years, and it's effective because it explains the mind as a multiplicity. So physically, there's one Ty here, one Tony, but mentally, we have parts of us, right? And these parts represents the voices that we hear in our head, that we speak from or speak for or hear, the emotions, the thoughts that we have. And these parts, they represent or they behave like a family does, right? And so they'll have hierarchies, they'll form alliances with each other, they'll sometimes bicker with each other. That's where you have conflicts. Some of them are different ages, right? They're not all the same age. And in IFS, you can help the parts. Some of the parts get hurt. Some of the parts get traumatized. They go through an experience where they're not sure how to feel. They don't like the way they feel, so they try not to feel it. Or other parts try to not get them to feel, so they'll push that family member away, right? Like if one of the kids in the house is crying all the time, he got to go in the basement. Get him out of here. He crying. He gonna make the whole family cry. He keep on crying, so we put him away in the basement, right? That's what our internal system does to one of our parts. If we get hit with some pain, that part goes in the basement. Now you can't get rid of none of your parts, just like you can't really get none of your kids, you know. So you put that part in the basement, and then now the other parts in the family have to act like that kid is not in the basement crying. And they do other things to ensure. They may turn the music up loud, or they may not go around, not go near that room, or whatever the case. And then there's the self. And the self never gets hurt, never gets damaged, doesn't hold the pain, doesn't hold the jealousy or anything like that. And the self could be like the loving parent inside the family of kids. And it's the self that heals the parts. We all have some self, right? And self could be explained as that godliness in all of us. Now, most of us don't realize that we have self because we go from part to part all the time because we believe we're one. Until you heard this notion, you may have thought if you have a feeling, right, that like the example you gave, Tony, a part of me wants to make this move, but a part of me really likes my home and like my neighborhood. So which part am I in that occasion? Sometimes you're the part that wants to stay. Sometimes you're the part that wants to move because you get blended with the part, right? They become you. When you get blended with a part, you hear the thoughts of that part. You see the world through that part's eyes. You think that part's thoughts. So you become that part. And because you don't know that you have parts, you're being led by the parts. So anytime you go through a situation, you become the part. But once you realize you have parts, you can recognize, oh, I know there's a part of me that doesn't want to go, that doesn't want to move. And I also recognize the part of me that does want to move. Let me get to know these parts instead of being these parts. And that's where the magic happens.
Yeah, because I could tell you for me, in my situation, when I first was going through a situation, we'll just use the breakup for an example. When I was going through a breakup, I had blended with my parts. And so I was making decisions based on my parts. And now, the way I understand it, parts are emotions or thoughts. And so I was blended with my emotions on a lot of situations. So I was making decisions based on my emotions instead of allowing my emotions. I use them sort of like as a boardroom where they're trying to teach me something, and then I can have conversations with them, communicate with them, and these types of things to figure out what it is that the sadness is trying to teach me. What is it that the excitement's trying to teach me? Because I had an excited part that was like, I'm ready to go out and date again. I had a sad part that was like, man, I, don't want to go out and date again because I just want to be single because I'm tired of being hurt. And then I had, I missed her part. And that part was like, I miss her. Well, what were the qualities that you missed from her? Can we find those qualities in someone different? So you can see how I was unable to blend with these parts just with a couple of sessions with Ty in order to um, realize that I was being part led and not self led. And once I became self led, the emotions didn't bother me. I was actually excited to have all my emotions with me going into the future because I could take them with me to help find a different partner by saying, hey, what are the qualities that I miss of that person? Can I look for those qualities in someone else and vice versa? Does that make sense to you, Ty? What I'm talking about?
Yeah, definitely. So, when you all think about these parts, right? Now, in our culture, we're told that, multiple personality disorder is a bad thing, or schizophrenia, right, is a bad thing. And we're told that you're supposed to have one personality and all that, but that's not true. The human mind is a multiplicity. That's the reason why this can work, right? That's the reason why we can have an internal argument or back and forth, or we have this. We feel like we're stuck because we go here one day, right? One minute we want to go left, 1 minute we want to go right. So we have this internal battle, and because we have the internal battle, we don't go anywhere. We stay stuck in the middle. Now, the way that I was introduced to IFS was my very first session was with the founder of the model, Dick Schwartz, right back in 2018. Now, my mom passed when I was 15, right? I was in the 10th grade, and my mom passed, and that was like the biggest loss up until that point. The By far, my mom was the most important person to me, the most person I was connected to, and when she passed, a part of me got stuck being sad, right? Got stuck being sad and in disbelief. And that part of me was like, how are we going to be normal in a world where my mom is not here to see me, to witness me, to support me in that way? And then time went on, and I got older, and I put that away, and like I just moved on with life and thought everything is good. But in one IFS session, I was able to go back to that 15-year-old, and I found him in the same place. He was still in the place of me being 15, still at my desk trying to figure out like how we gonna do this? Like how we gonna live life? She's not here. Who's gonna notice that I'm important and special and valuable? How am I gonna make sure and make something of myself if she's not here to guide me through that? And when I went inside, right? So in IFS, when you do a session, you go inside, you close your eyes, and you go inside, and you could visually see the part. You could visually see. So I'm able to see where that part of me was, and he was in my apartment where I lived when I was 15. And he looks at me confused, like, how are you standing there if I'm sitting in this chair? he didn't realize there was that he wasn't all me, right? And so, long story short, I was able to take him out of that place. I was able to take him out of that room, and all my other parts were able to welcome him back into my life. He didn't know I had a kid. He didn't know it was like whatever year that was, 2022. He didn't. He still thought it was 1996, right? He thought I was still in high school. And many of us have parts that are stuck in time because time doesn't exist in the mind. Just like when you have a dream, and in the dream, weeks could go past, years could go past, decades could go past in this dream, and yet you never question the fact that so much time has passed while you're in a dream. Same thing with the parts. They don't question where they are. They just act on where they are. And many of us have parts that are stuck in that place. So when you mention that part of you that was sad, that missed her, what happened when we went to that part? Who did we discover that part being? Was that part Tony of today, or was that a different Tony?
That was a Tony, a 7-year-old Tony. And that was actually, I was blended with another part, the abandoned part. So what happened was when I did a session with Ty, I realized, he said, well, when was the last time you felt that way with a woman? And then I said, well, the last time I felt that way with a woman was with my ex-wife in the beginning of the relationship. And then he said, well, how about a time before that? And I really couldn't figure it out for a little bit. It took about 10 minutes of questioning. And then I realized the last time I felt like that was from when I was 7 years old. And I felt abandoned when I was in a group homes and programs and group homes of Water the State growing up. So I had exiled this part of me out as a protector. We call them protectors in the IFS community. I was protecting myself by suppressing and repressing that emotion, right, for 30 years or whatever, 29 years, whatever it ended up being.
Mm-hmm.
So when we got to that point, I was able to heal the abandoned part instantly through a few questions. Ty had me feeling like, man, I was great. So I went from, missing and abandoned to completely fine and moving on within just one session. So I thought it was remarkable. A lot of the reason why I wanted to come here on this podcast and demonstrate that to you all, because I was able to relieve myself, but I still have that 7-year-old part, right? So these parts don't go away, but this 7-year-old part doesn't feel abandoned anymore because I'm with that 7-year-old part.
Right.
So my self-led being is with that 7-year-old part. So I'm like, man, so what did my 7-year-old self need from me to move forward? And that was listen to music that I used to listen to when I was 7 years old. Eat mint chocolate chip freaking ice cream. Let's roll. Just things like that I was able to do with my 7-year-old part. So that part didn't feel abandoned anymore. And also can heal others that were abandoned in the similar situations.
Exactly. And the beautiful thing about this idea that where we have a multiplicity of the mind, and that these parts of us, they behave like a family does, right? It's my belief that if we all had healthy families, we wouldn't have the problems that we have in the world today. We wouldn't have wars. We wouldn't fight each other. We wouldn't argue with each other, right? Because we would hold each other like family does, right? If you went through any type of pain, like when my mom passed away, what did I need? I needed a supportive family to be there for me and support me and help guide me through that emotion, to help that part of me that was stuck in that room trying to figure it out, to be there to help me figure it out, right? Because I have limited information as a 15-year-old. I need certain supports that I can't give myself, right? A lot of our parts believe that we're still that age, right? When you connected to that 7-year-old, he thought you were still 7. When I connected to my 15-year-old, he thought that we were still 15 because he's 15. So he thought that if I'm 15, that this is still 1996, right? And so once I was able to retrieve him, he was able to realize, wait a minute, it's not 1996. He's been in that room for so long, right? And when I welcomed him, it was like an amazement. And it was just such a warm feeling to hug that part of me. And it was like a group hug. All my parts, we hugged each other. And I took him out of that room. He wanted to go to the arcade to see how good I am at Street Fighter. That's the game we played back in those days. We were like, all right, since you're older now, let's see if you're good at this game. Let's see if you got better, right? And so we went to the arcade, but he became a part of my life and he wanted to stay 15, right? He wanted to stay 15. And I asked him, okay, what do you want to do now that you're out of that room? How would you like to live in my life? What kind of role would you want to have? He wasn't sure yet. So I spent some time with him in IFS. We call this updating, right? So that 7-year-old that you have, Tony, you brought him around you and let him see how you live life now. Ask him how he wants to be in your life. And that's where your humor comes from, your fun. Like you brought the card game to the bar that one time, right?
The
Playing
bar,
cards.
baby. You got cards right here. You wanna play? Check them out.
Right.
Now people know why I have cards on my hat. See? The truth was revealed. Let's go.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So we all have
baby.
parts that are stuck in these places, right? All of us. And we realize that since these parts behave like a family, that we can create a great harmonious family within us, right? Like our body, our this body that we have, the vessel of our body is the home that our family exists in. And these parts is hundreds of thousands of parts, right? And then once you really identify what they want, what they need, right? Even if you have a part of you that's saying, you know, you're nothing, you're worthless. If you have a part of you that's saying you're worthless, if you really got down to get to know that part, because you could talk back to that voice, you could talk back to it, and you want to talk back to it, not in a negative way, right? If you had if you had a 8-year-old kid in your house that was your nephew or something, and he said, "I'm worthless," right? Would you say, "No, you're not"? You wouldn't say that to him, because what's his response going to be? If you say, "No, you're not," "Yes, I am." So you can't convince parts to change. What you would do is you would get curious about this part. Okay, I'm curious to know why you feel that way, right? And then that allows the part or the kid, or whatever we use for the analogy, allows them to share how they feel, why they feel that way. And when you really get down to it, you're going to identify that they're valid points that they're making, right? That 7-year-old that felt abandoned had a valid reason for feeling abandoned. My 15-year-old part had a valid reason for feeling abandoned. But once I'm there with them, they realize that they're not alone. They have me, right? They have you. Same thing. And once they realize they're not alone, you can help them, guide them out of that emotion, out of that stuck in place. And that's the beauty of it.
I've also noticed that as I continue to grow relationships with my parts, as we call it in the system, no bad parts, because they're all there for a reason. And it's a very good reason. And so as I grow in relationship with my parts, I realize that they trust me. They get to trust me to make decisions. So when I make a decision, it's self-led, and it's coming from a self-led perspective. And even if they disagree with me, it's like children, right? Even if they disagree with you, they're like, well, we trust his decision, he made the right decision. So they don't get more inflamed. Whereas like if you have a part of you that has anxiety and you're blended with the emotion and you do something anyway, you're still anxious, and it's really, really strong. It actually comes on stronger because it was trying to tell you something and communicate, and we try to suppress them and repress them, and then it creates a challenge for us. Instead, if we say, hey, look, this is how it's going to be, then they start to trust you. You have that conversation with them. I'll check in with you in a couple of days, or I'll check in with you in a week and see how things are going. And then that feeling subsides, that we call a negative feeling. But we believe in IFS community that there are no bad parts.
Right. Yeah. So imagine, and to bring it back to your audience, Tony, imagine if, the family was going on a road trip, right? They're going to be going on a road trip, and some of the kids in the family don't really want to go on the trip, or they have different opinions, right? One family member wants to go to Six Flags, the other family member wants to go to Disney World, and they're, conflicted by that. Now, if there's no harmony within that road trip, the kid who doesn't get what they want will be crying the whole time. And if they're crying the whole time, or they're complaining the whole time, then we can't have fun in the car, right? You're going to be telling them, hush, hush back there. Like no one is going to really have enjoyment in that vehicle, right? Sometimes our parts will take over, right? We call that blended or hijack. They'll take over when they believe that you're approaching a situation that you can't solve, right? So if you're going into a situation and they feeling nervous and they feeling worried, they'll try to hijack you. That may show up as being angry, right? Or hot temper, or being very sad, down, right? Or feeling worthless, like I can't do it. They're going to stop you from doing whatever the task you want to do because they don't believe you can do it. The reason why they don't believe you can do it, because a lot of times the parts don't even know who you are. The last time they was connected to you, you were a little kid and you couldn't do it, right? And so once you, like you mentioned, that trust, I have parts of me that I had to update, over the last couple of years, and these were parts that were very young. And when I'm here trying to do work, I would hear this voice like, "Oh, this is boring. Why we keep doing this? Let's do something different. We been sitting at this computer all day. We ain't play no game. We ain't even go outside. Can we get a snack? Let's do something else, right?" And then it's a part of me is like, "Oh, like I need to focus. Like I can't focus for some reason." And it's that part. It's those parts, those cluster parts. They were young. Once I update them to who I am, they didn't realize that I was older. They thought that I was still a teenager, and they was complaining to the teenage parts of me who want to do my tasks, right? And so once they realized who I am, they were like, "Oh wow, you got gray hair like Grandpa does," right? They was like, "Oh, so you're not a kid anymore? Oh, so that's why you be doing the work? Yeah, we about to do X, Y, and Z. I got this coming out there. Oh, can we help?" Now they want to help me. Now they want to support me in the stuff that I'm doing. So when I'm doing work, before I do any work, right, I got to check in on them. I got to check in on my part. So if anybody who's in school, if you're doing any major tasks, if you're trying to, if you have some resistance to work, give this a shot. Okay. Before you get to work, you want to check in on yourself. Do a check in by simply asking inside. Imagine if you close your eyes or you just talk to yourself and you say, "Is everybody good in there?" And then you listen, right? Is everybody good in there? Anybody need anything before I get this work done? Yeah, I need to can we eat first? Like, I'm hungry. Like, can we get a snack? What we gonna do after we finish this work? Can we go outside? Can we play a game? Whatever. All right, cool. We're gonna do that. We'll do that. No problem. Anybody else? Anybody else need anything? No, we good. If we do that, we'll be fine. Okay. Then the part of me that does the work. So I have a part of me that's great at doing work, great at focusing, right? A few parts. So they're the ones who are going to be blended with me, right? So and when I get blended with those, I purposely blend with them. When I purposely blend with them, I'll get with them and then I'll say, "Okay, before we do any work, what do you need from the environment? I need the room. I need this desk cleaned up. I need that, whatever." Okay, boom. Once all that's taken care of, then I'll blend with that part. My other parts are happy. I'm able to do the work. Zero resistance to do the work, right? This is when you have this awareness that you have these parts, and these parts, they are like living people in you. The great thing is they're you, and they love you, and they care for you, and they all want the same thing, and that's internal harmony. When we ignore parts, push them aside, try to plow through them, try to, forget about them, try to make them not exist, or try to drink our way, or ignore them or distract from them, that's when we have more problems. And that's where a lot of the problems that we have in our society is coming from, because we're ignoring ourselves instead of embracing those voices and those parts of us.
That's a good point, man. And let me ask you this for my audience, because a lot of people that I move are going through divorce, or they're just getting married, or having a newborn, and upgrading homes, or they're moving from, they're getting an addition on their home, right? Things of these types of things. How would internal family systems help with those situations?
Yeah. So the great thing is that when you identify that you have these parts, right, and you have some conflict, and it's a great thing to identify conflict. It's a great thing to realize conflict, because now you have a new part that needs some help, some attention. And when you have the proper tools to go in and identify what they need and help them and heal them and learn from them and appreciate them, then you get them from being in that place that they were in, right? The problem is that many of us don't have the tools, so we don't want to go in those places. We don't want to hear that situation, right? If you have if somebody put a baby in your lap and you never, you don't know anything about babies, you never had a baby before, you never had to change diapers and things like that, and somebody give you a crying baby, you're not going to want that. You're going to want to hush this baby, get this out of here. That's how we treat our parts, right? So when you have the tools to be able to do that, you can go and you understand yourself internally. The beautiful thing about this is once you understand yourself internally and you have the tools for your internal parts, you also have the tools for you externally to other people. So you could be more self-led in your interactions with other people. So if you're in a situation where you're in a move and it's an upgrade, or it's some type of conflict, right? It's more money I'm spending, or whatever the case is, like all your family members aren't necessarily on board with things, you can offer self energy towards them, which is going to be curiosity, compassion, creativity, right? Some courage to speak to them about these things, and do it from a place where your parts. So let's say if I'm the husband and we're about to make this big move, and we about to move from New York to Tampa. And this is an actual story. My uncle moved to Tampa maybe like 20 years ago. I'm going to move from New York to Tampa to a nicer place, nicer weather, right? We're going to have a better school, things like that. But my daughter, she doesn't want to move. She doesn't want to move because she just got accepted into her art school, right? And she's a freshman in her art school, and she tries so hard to get into that art school. Now, when we make this move, she's going to be the one that's upset. If I approach it from this perspective of, we try so hard to do this, we saved up our money, we're going to make this move, we need to do that. If I do that, what is she going to do? She's going to stand in her defense. But this is my life too. That's how she's going to be. It's going to be protectors clashing with each other. But if I was to go and not understand, like, oh, let me offer some curiosity behind how she feels. Let me get my parts of me who may sense this as her not being appreciative or not, liking the fact that we want to move or want to stay. Let me get those parts of me to give me some space from that energy. Because if I get blended with those parts, I can't be in self. So let me get some space from that energy from those parts. I'll find out what they need to let me speak to my daughter, to let me approach the situation, right? And so they'll give me some space, and then I'll go to her. Now, she still may be upset, but I'm going to come to it with some openness, some compassion, and curiosity. When I come to her with that curiosity, her first response may be angry, but I'm going to take that and I'm going to hold it. I'm like, okay, I understand that. That makes sense. I'm real curious about it to get to know more. Then her next response most likely will be less aggressive, and then progressively less aggressive till we find out who, like, really where the pain is, and we can help her and hold that with her. This is how we're able to heal our family. So if we understand how to heal our internal family, we'll learn how to heal external family. Now, if all of us had this tool, if or the whole world knew this, then we would not have the problems that we have in our world. We would not fight with each other. We would have supportive relationships with our family, with our spouses, with our kids, with each other, with our work, right? It would just be an amazing place. That's the reason why I'm like a evangelist for this model, because it healed me in ways I didn't think was possible.
Yeah, same here. And it allows for us to know ourselves. You know, we can help others in the same way. And like, so when someone's coming after me or saying things to me, I always say to myself, this isn't them talking to me. This is a part of them. And I can get curious about the part of them that's talking to me. And I can know how to help in that situation. So that's like super, super valuable when I'm going through a situation or going through some sort of, um, you know, conflict with them. I'm like, that's just part of them. I mean, for example, I'll give an example. One of my family members says to me, I can't stand that guy. But they're best friends. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make any sense, right? And I'm like, well, part of you can't stand that guy because the other part of you was hanging out with him. You guys were at the Super Bowl together. And another part of you, was working with him, and another part of you, whatever. So there's different parts of you that maybe a part of you can't stand him. Right.
Right.
And so that allows us in the relationships that we're in to realize, oh, part of me doesn't like what this person's doing or whatnot, but it doesn't mean that they make me angry. A part of what is happening is making me angry, kind of thing.
Right. Right. And the thing is that when we realize that, right? So we first realize that we have parts. That's the first thing. And again, the beautiful thing is that if you do have a part of you that's very sad about things, it doesn't mean that you're sad. Or if you have a part that's messy, doesn't mean that you're messy, right? Or you have a part that gets angry, doesn't mean that you're all angry. When we look at other people and we see a person that may be acting mean in the moment, what we do is we say, that person is mean, and we condemn them for that. That is who they are. We paint them all mean, right? So that means I don't like mean people, right? I'm gonna say I don't like mean people, even though there's a part of me that don't like mean people. I'm gonna say I don't like mean people. So that means I'm not gonna be with that person. Now we have this part awareness. We'll say a part of me doesn't like mean people, and that person has a part that's mean, right? So let me get to know that person's other parts. Let me get to communicate and find out where that person's self is, because self is beautiful. Self is the godliness of all of us, and since we all have self, right? And there's some self in all of our parts, then I'm interested in meeting this person's self, not his part, not her part, right? Their self. And how do I get to do that? I have to first be in self, myself, because parts beget parts. If I approach a situation from a part, they're going to approach a situation from a part. And this is where the class come from. So in that example, I freaking hate this guy, right? Which part do you hate? You know, and if you approach it from that perspective, then that part, when you say you hate a part, another part come out, then there's a clash. Versus, I'm curious about that, why that part acts that way. Just like I have a little nephew, he's 2 years old. He got this part, right? He doesn't speak that. He says a few words, right? But he has a part where he gets angry and he'll fight you. He like it's so cute. Like, like you'll do something and he don't like what you're doing. He try to like fight you. His mom, she gets like if depending on what part she blended with, right? She'll be upset by that. Like, stop. Me, I'm just like I love seeing that. Sometimes I'll be wanting to bring it out on purpose, right? Because I just love to have his face because he's such a happy kid. He's always laughing, running around. He's a little handyman. He got a toolbox, and everywhere he goes, everywhere I take him, he's gonna try to help the people at work. I took him to go get some clothes. He started helping the girl put tags on the stuff. He finds the person who's working and start helping them work, right? So he has parts of him that are older in that regard. But he has this part that gets angry, right? And so when I see that, what do? I laugh at it. I appreciate it, right? I enjoy just seeing a part of him versus trying to stop him from doing that. Try to exile that part. Don't behave that way. Don't do that. Many of us were told as kids that we shouldn't be a certain way, we shouldn't act a certain way, we shouldn't feel a certain way. And we have parts that took on that message and say, yeah, we shouldn't act that way. So as soon as we start acting that way, we push that part of us aside. We shouldn't feel a certain way. So we feel a certain way, we push that part away, right? For myself, my 15-year-old part, being a sad kid, right? I'm smart, funny, cool when I was in school. I'm not about to be a sad kid because my family was already treating me like I was sad because I was, right? If my family's treating me like they sad, what they're gonna pity me or feel sorry for me? That's not who I am. I was a proud kid. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to be walking around people pitying me. So therefore, no one in school is going to know about this. Because if people in school know about this, they're going to treat me the same way. I'm not going to let that happen. So that part of me that was sad, he got to go away. And that's how we exile our parts, right? Until someone shows us how to get in self and how to accept parts of us. Even the parts of us that society may not like, society may not appreciate. It's you, it's your family, you could treat your parts however you want to treat them. And the best way to treat them is with love and compassion. That's what feels good to us. So that's what I'm teaching people, how to be loving and compassionate with their own internal system that will allow love and compassionate to the outside world and outside systems.
Right on. And a lot of this conversation has been about healing, but the reality of the situation is we're bringing this to the coaching industry because right now IFS is in the therapy model only, but we're going to be making it happen. And the vision is for it to be in the entire world, but everybody's speaking from a parts language. So we're going to blow this thing up. Do you want to talk about how we're going to blow this thing up, Ty? Let's freaking roll.
Yes. So yeah, IFS has been around for 40 years. I believe it's for like the first 35 years of IFS, it was only being taught to therapists, right? So recently, the institute has started to teach non-therapists, right? Now they recently went back to teaching therapists only, and they're working on some alternatives, right, for non-therapists to learn the model. But they gave it to the right person when they gave it to me, right? Because one, I was able to use it to heal. And the great thing about IFS is it is not me who heals Tony. It is me who shows Tony how to heal himself. And so now he doesn't have to be in sessions with me all the time, right? Because he gets the it's almost like I'm teaching him how to drive a car. And once the instructor teaches you how to drive a car, you don't need the instructor anymore. You can start driving the car yourself. Now, you're not going to be an expert at driving the car at first, but every time you drive, you get better. Same thing when it comes to this, right? And so I took this stuff in IFS, and the reason why I love it so much is because, like I said, it helped me heal from a lot of pain. I had a lot of death in my family, right? I have a book that the viewers can listen to. Go to my website. I'll put the link somewhere here. Go to my website. You can check out I made it into an audio book. So I was asked to contribute to an IFS book because I'm one of the leading people in the world who's bringing IFS out of the therapy room. And I bring it out of the therapy room by allowing you to come into my own therapy. I'm bringing you into my own therapy sessions, right? And so once I wrote the book, it was one chapter, and I said, you know what, the story is so powerful, I need it to be more accessible. So I went and I produced a mini audio book of that chapter, right? So you can get that on my website. And then I'm going to turn that into a podcast, right? I'm going to bring you into how is life different for me now that I've healed my parts? How is my life different with my relationships with my sister, my family, my productivity, my romantic relationships, my business, right? My money. Like, how is things different in all these realms because I had these updates from these parts so that the world can see a pathway, a loving, compassionate pathway towards healing, right? This is pretty simple, and it's a beautiful thing. And even more beautiful is that once I healed that part of me that was sad about my mom passing, after some more work, I'm able to heal my mom. I can hear, there's a part of me that is my mom, and I can hear that part of her anytime I need to just tap into that wisdom that she has, right? And so I say, you know what? This is stuck in therapy, right? The only way you would get it before is you had to have a one-on-one session, right? And you have to know to ask for IFS. Most people go to therapy and they say, I just need therapy. They don't know what kind of therapy to ask for. There's many modalities of therapy, right? So which therapy do you ask for? I say, you know what? This needs to be out of therapy. The world needs to realize that this is how the mind works. The world needs to see pathways to healing. And I'm going to take it and I'm going to give it to the world. And I started by giving it to my brothers, right? So that includes Tony, right? I've been coaching guys in their relationships since 2020. I've been coaching guys in the image since 2015. That's why you see the image stuff in the background. You see Tony's wearing the hat. That's my influence on him, right? And so I was like, how can I take this and put it into other realms of things? So I put it into my image coaching, right? So I'm coaching men, and I do a part mapping exercise where if you're going to improve your image, which parts, when you just think about that idea, whether you're a male or female, if you think about improving the way you dress on a daily basis, when you think about which part comes up, you may have a part of you that's, oh, that's, how much is that going to cost me? Where am I going to learn that? You know, I got a lot of clothes already, right? You're going to have all these different parts come up. So you can externalize them by putting them on paper. You can draw them out. You can write how they feel, what they're saying. And I like to do what I like to call the round table or conference table, where you just have them all the parts on the table about this one topic. It could be anything, but for right now, for this example, we'll say style. And once all the parts that are involved in that question, you get to talk to each of them. Okay, what do you think about that? And when you're talking to the parts in this way and you're connecting to them, guess what you're in? Self, because you're not being the part. You're looking at the part, you're communicating with the part, and you're not being the part. And that allows you to have some space, but it also allows your parts to be witnessed by you and give them attention, which is what they want, right? If they don't have attention, they'll give you other problems. You may even start having pains and nightmares because you're not listening to your parts. They're trying to get your attention because they have valuable information to give you. So I'm bringing it throughout the world from my image coaching. I have a program called Well Dressed Academy, which is in New York City schools. It's an image coaching program for young men and boys. I got to have a children book coming out in April, where it's going to be going into my childhood stories, but it has an IFS lens on top of it. I'm going to have the podcast. I'm going to produce an album. I'm going to produce a game. Like, a lot of stuff's going to come out of it. And all the people that I help become more self-led, I'm going to have their stories told in a way where they can offer healing to their people as well. Like for Tony, once he started to become more self-led, he realized, I want to go and help the people who went through things I went through as a kid, people who was in group homes and things. Like, I want to help that audience, right? Who's going there to help them? That's self-led. That's Tony, right? And the same with all of us. So that's just one of the ways that I'm just bringing this model to the world in a way that I believe it can heal the world in a very short period of time.
Yeah, because I was thinking when I healed my 7-year-old self through your guidance, um, I was like, we got to get this to the children, because if I held that from when I was 7 instead of 37, then
Right.
I wouldn't have been in these challenges as an adult in these relationships. So, it's better to heal children than to heal grown men, in my opinion. So it's like, let's bring it to the children in these group homes. And I'm also
Hmm.
inspired by this model, but other people who have told me that I should be a motivational speaker or a coach and things of that nature. So that's another reason why I wanted to bring it in this. But I've noticed from being self-led, I don't need any external events to help my internal peace within. So, in other words, I don't need anyone to nurture me, tell me it's going to be okay. I don't need, anyone to motivate me or inspire me. I don't need anyone to validate me or prove me in any way. I'm me unapologetically myself, because I already get all that approval,
Right.
validation, and nurturing and, strength from my parts. So that's really remarkable as well.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. Like a lot of, that you say that a lot of people are looking outside themselves. That's the reason why we had our relationship issues, right? So my
Right.
relationship issue happened because I'm looking outside of myself to get validation. I'm looking out of myself to get appreciation, right? Or connection, right? That's where all our problems come in. And this is the reason why most relationships are doomed to fail. Because if you're trying to get validation or trying to get care from another person, chances are it's a very young, needy part of you. And that young, needy part of you is going to need that attention, like undivided attention. Some other person who's going through their own things, their own issues, or whatever they're going through, their work, whatever it is, they can't give that young part of you undivided attention. But if you assume that they need to get it from you, need to get it from them, you're going to be starved, right? If you have a household full of kids and they don't have any food in the house, you barely feed them, right? When your uncle comes over with some Chinese food, they're gonna eat that all up. But if they was in a home where they were eating healthy food and they were well fed and they didn't need for nothing, and uncle came over with that Chinese food, they're not gonna want that. They're not gonna want to need that. That's how it is when we realize that we have this internal compassion, internal family, internal love, the internal parent. What we didn't get as a kid, we can give to ourselves now. We can be the parent that we wanted. So even though my mom is not here, it's like I can talk to those young parts and say, no, look, we doing it. Like it was a part of me. It's like, yo, we not gonna make nothing of ourselves because she's not here to guide us. Like, yo, bro, we doing that already. We doing it. Oh, we are. Yes, look. And I appreciate them and I connect to them. So even though I might go through situations where once upon a time I will go through a situation and it would debilitate me. I would feel down about it. I wouldn't get out the bed until in the afternoon, and I would just be sad until something comes in to change that situation. That same environment, that same activity or same situation, my parts, they would still feel something, but they knew they weren't alone in that. They knew that they had me, they knew they had other parts who could solve the problem quickly, right? And therefore, they feel okay with it. They didn't feel like they were little kids by themselves out there with nobody to help and support them. That's what we all need to get in touch with. We attach self to those parts of us, and then we have much more space for the outside world. Instead of us trying to change the outside world, we appreciate it. We get curious about it, right? Because we know no matter what happens, we're fine. We'll be safe, we'll be loved, we'll be appreciated, and we're never alone.
Yeah, man. If anyone has any questions about this stuff, just shoot me a private message on Facebook. We were gonna have question and answer on the platform, but we had some challenges earlier, but we've overcome them. So if you want to just hit me up on the Facebook Messenger app that way, and we will answer any of your questions. For the time being, also wanted to point out some of the coaching things that we're doing is vision, working on our vision
Right,
every week.
right,
If you've seen my vision, you'd be like, man, that guy's got a massive freaking vision. And that's
right,
because I got 300 parts that contribute to that vision. It's
right,
not just Me,
Right.
the self, contributing to that vision. My procrastination part is contributing to that vision. My ambitious part, my let's go Tony part is contributing to that. So when I'm talking my procrastination part, what he needs from me, and what kind of metrics he needs from me, and what kind of information he needs from me to be able to move forward, it makes it a lot easier for all my parts to be in unity going through that as well. You want to talk about that for a minute while I see if there's any questions?
Yeah, sure. You know, as I said, I'm doing a whole bunch of things, and a lot of my friends and family like, Ty, how do you have the time to do? You know, you got the coaching these guys. You're speaking in the schools. You know, you got a children book coming out. You're talking about making a game. How do you have the time to do all these things? And I let them know that it's not just one me, right? It's not just one me. There's multiples of me, and they all have access to self. And so, and not only are they multiples of me that have access to self, but they team up together. They form teams with each other, right? And so, like you mentioned, your parts, right? The procrastination part, the ambition part, they work together. So that's those same parts. The example I gave earlier, where I would try to work and I have parts like, oh, this is boring. I don't want to do this. Those same young parts now help me build whatever I'm building. They add creativity to it. They add color to it. They add playfulness and fun to my projects, you know? And so when you identify what your vision is, if you just say, you know, my vision is to be if you say that is incorrect. So if you take nothing from this call today or nothing from this podcast, I want you to take this one thing. There is no such thing as I. It's we. What do we want to do? What do we want for our vision? So that you can get more than one answer. Because if you say I want to be the best mover in the industry, that's one part of you, or maybe a couple parts of you, but you're not listening to all the other parts who want other things, right? So you say, what do we want to do? And then listen for answers and keep listening until you feel like you got all the answers. So everybody said what they need to say. And then you identify, okay, how can we all do these things? Like same thing that we was talking about the family trip. Where do we want to go on this family trip? And you make a list of things. You do a brainstorming session. Okay, we want to go here, we want to go there. All right, let's narrow it down. Once everybody gets their opinions out and we come to an agreement, now we can move forward in that path, and we move completely forward. There's no resistance. Everybody has their role. They know what they're going to do. They're looking forward to the journey, right? Now you're moving in this path where, like I said, time doesn't exist for these parts. So I'm able to do exponentially more than I was able to do before because there's less resistance. All my parts are happy. We know where we're going, right? It's just a great thing. And that's what we can all do. And the way that you do that is you can use that part map I told you about. Right. This is what I help with the guys this week. So I have a coaching program where I help the guys who I help with their relationships. And every week we have a call. And our last call, I did a part mapping exercise, right? Where you identified, first you think of the topic, like what's your most pressing thing this week? Most of my guys mentioned business and vision. I was like, okay, so which parts are activated by that? Which parts have a say when it comes to your business and your vision? Get them all on the paper, right? So I got this part of me that's focused on expanding. I got this part of me that's mentioning that I'm pretty overwhelmed. I got a lot of stuff going on. I got this part. So you identify all the parts, right? And then as you go through your week, and you can go deeper into that, you can ask some more questions, but you go through your week, and as you're going through your week, you look at your map and you see which part was activated most today. Which part was communicating to me most today, right? And this is what we call a fire drill, where you can kind of look at who's being activated. And when you're paying attention to who's being activated, you're noticing them, you're witnessing them, you're not them. You don't become them. You don't become the energy of the overwhelm. You don't become the energy of the super excitement. I want to just plow through everything. You don't become that. You just recognize it. And because you don't become it, you can access it when you want to, or you can get space from it when you want to. Now you're in control of you and not allowing the parts to be in control of you. And that's the beauty of it, right? And if we all were seeing it now, imagine if we were all self-led. Like I'm self-led, Tony self-led, now we're working together. So now it's not just two men working together. It's two men plus all their parts. So that means it's exponentially more impactful.
You
We
know
can
what that
all do
is?
that.
Unstoppable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I know that a lot of people joined this live just recently in the last minute. So if you have any questions about this, definitely shoot me a message on Facebook Messenger with any questions you have. I do have one, and I'm going to keep these anonymous unless you want me to say who you are. Is IFS part meditation? I heard Ty say he found his 15-year-old self in the bedroom and he sat with himself.
Mm-hmm. So I would say no, it's not meditation, right? Is more profound than meditation, right? So in meditation, which your goal is to, in some meditation practices, you're trying to quiet the mind, right? And I would ask, and if you're doing that type of meditation where you're trying to quiet the mind, I would ask, which part of you is trying to quiet which part of you, right? If you're doing a meditation where you're observing the thoughts, right? Which part of you is observing? The difference in IFS is that these parts are living. They have personalities, right? They have their we're not one, right? So think of it that way. Think of it as a family. Think of it as children. Think of it as your family members in you, right? Think of it as when you see your family, you see somebody changing or they becoming something or something came over them, right? This is another part coming online. So you want to think of the mind as this multiplicity. And when we say going inside, you will close your eyes and that's mainly so you can focus, right? And you will have this conversation. But it may be a meditative state that you may get yourself in, but you're actually actively communicating back and forth to the voices you hear or the emotions or the feelings. And when you're in a session, I'm the one or your practitioner or your therapist is the one that's guiding you through that conversation. They're telling you what to ask. They're telling you what to say. It's almost like you're going in a dark room and they're showing you which, all right, turn left here. All right, what you see now? Oh, I see a brick wall. All right, you're gonna go underneath the wall. Okay, you got to dig underneath. Okay, there it is. Now, what do you see now? That's how it goes, like a back and forth thing of navigation. The more that you do sessions, the more that this dark room starts to illuminate, and you start being able to see the parts. You can see what they're wearing, right? You can see how what they look like, what their haircut is, or what their hairstyle is. You can see the room around you. You could smell the room. Okay, one of my first sessions, I was able to smell a room of my 8-year-old part. He was in my grandfather's house. I was able to smell a room. This like 30 years. I didn't. How do I know what the room smelled like? How do I even attach that memory? But when I went inside, I was able to smell that room. So these parts exist in certain places, right? And one thing that you realize as well is that we had parts before we even realized who we were. When we were in the womb, we had parts. For any of the mothers in here who have multiple children, you know, your first child behaved differently in the womb than your second child, which means they had parts before they were even born. Who are these parts? If these parts are different personalities, who are these parts? Every person that's responsible for your DNA is potentially a part of you. The beautiful thing of that is that our ancestors are with us. And when you connect to them in their self energy, you connect to that wisdom of the ancestors. That's the reason why my goal is to heal us all. Because if we were all healed in this way, this we will evolve. We will evolve in one lifetime, all of us simultaneously, collectively, right? That's what I'm trying to create here. That's why I'm connected to this IFS and making these works and connected to the therapists, connected to the coaches, being a part of the IFS Institute to push things, writing the book, making the games, healing my family, making a podcast, making the song, everything. Because if we all had this world will be a different place. Imagine if all the geniuses of the world were working to help heal the families of the world. And they feel like every person in this world was a part of their family. We would not be using our technology to make weapons to kill. We'll be using our collective technology to use to help us all. That's the world that I want to exist in, and I believe I can make it happen.
Absolutely, sir. You can make it happen. All right, let me see if there's other questions coming in. I believe there is. Someone's typing right now.
All right. Someone asked for my so if you go to my website, tycutner.com, it's going to say under construction. If you click that link, right, you'll see the healing journey. So my healing has been documented, right? Famously, right? My very first session was with the founder of the model, Dick Schwartz, back in 2018. I didn't have a full concept of IFS, but you will be able to see my very first IFS session. Okay. The next session that you'll see was the unburdening of that 15-year-old part. So that was also live. So before that session, I could not get in touch with that part of me because every time I get in touch with that part, I'll get sad. And my other parts like, we're not gonna go to that sad place. Let's stay away from that because they were afraid we were going to a deep depression, right? So you can watch that session. There's also a couple of podcasts that I've been on regarding that. You can also see the Wellness Academy video there, where you'll see a kid version of me, right? And if you compare that video of my kid, me joking and smiling as a kid, you be able to see that kid in me. You'll be able to see him in my laughter and my playing because that part is very connected to me. But I'm also going to give you a link to the book, right? So you all can check out the book. And like I said, for the book, you don't need your email address, right? I wanted to make it as accessible as possible. I don't want anybody to turn away from it. I wanted them to be able to check it out. So I'm going to send you a link there. And that's for the book. Well, I didn't put like book, but there it is. So there's a link to the book. Just go ahead, click on that, press play. You'll be able to listen to that. If you want to keep in touch with me, right, then you want to sign up to on that page. This way you can see the new things that's coming out. The podcast is coming out. I'm also going to be speaking at the Heirloom Summit, I think this is the 4th Heirloom Summit. I was unburdened at the first Heirloom Summit. So that's going to be happening the last week of this month. So I'll put a link in there for that as well. So you can get tickets to that. I'm going to be speaking about life after healing. So how is life different once you have some healing? How are you different in your life? You know, I want to share that with the world so that we can go. And how does it look
Dude,
too?
that's amazing, bro. It's freaking
Yeah,
awesome. Right? I mean, there's
exactly.
nothing better, man. It's
Exactly.
crazy. I've had people say to me, "Are you sure you have emotions?" And I'm like, "Man, my emotions have names. Jacob, like I got names for my emotions. I'm so in touch with my
Hmm.
emotions, which allows me to continue to move forward with them with me into complete harmony." So another question. So our parts are energies of ourselves? Question mark. We channel the energy during trainings, IFS training sessions.
So the parts are like people within you. See, I like to see it that way, right? I like to see it as people, people in a family, right? So not just energies. Because if you say energies, right, it's hard for you to name them. It's hard for you to give a personality to them. It's hard for you to see them visually, right? So I say they're people, right? Just like I have a part, like when I'm hanging out with my son, sometimes I'll become a younger version of me. We'll play games together. We'll enjoy ourselves, right? We had some snow recently. It wasn't enough. It melted pretty quickly. But before that, we had a snowstorm where it was some snow outside, right? And I was like, a part of me wanted to go outside and play snowball. So when we did that, right? We got all suited up. I put my gloves on and everything else. And when I went outside, I channeled that 15-year-old, 8-year-old kid parts of me. We're gonna have a snowball fight, and I was able to have some fun. Now, when I'm in that energy, so right to use that word, if I'm in that energy, or if I'm connected to that part, guess what I'm doing when I'm playing with him? I'm a kid again, right? I'm not his father at that time. I'm a kid. We can play together. So I can tune into these parts of me anytime I want because I'm self-led, meaning it's like an orchestra, right? The conductor of the orchestra can signal which instrument he wants to be louder or which is in harmony, right? He's in control of the different instruments. When we're not self-led, we're allowing the orchestra to play themselves. The drum's gonna get too loud. The bass is gonna be too low, or whatever case. It's not gonna be music. But when you're self-led, you get harmony. So you want to think of these parts of you as different people. Now, conceptually, it's hard to see because now everybody's probably thinking about this, right? What does he mean by that? It makes sense, but when you're doing that, guess what's happening? You have a part that's thinking. It's your thinking part, your figure it out part that's doing that. In order for you to truly understand and truly get a grasp of this, you have to experience it. You have to have a session, right? And once you have a session, you'll be able to connect to these parts in a different way. And from when you come out of this session, you'll realize, wait a minute, I was able to see this part of me. I was able to hear that part of me. I was able to talk to that part of me. I was able to get information out of that part that I didn't know before. I'm seeing things from that part. Like when I went to my 8-year-old part, I was able to see stuff in that apartment that I forgot existed. We have a lot of parts trying to give us information and we don't want to hear it. And because we don't want to hear it, we have other issues in life. When we listen to the part from a self place, we'll gain information from their wisdom, right? And we can help them out of their low places and bring them back with us. And now we have their wisdom with us and we have their wisdom working together as a family. We're unstoppable. So you want to see those parts as more as personalities, more as people, more as family members.
That's why they call it internal family systems, right?
Right. Right. So it's an internal family. The systems of that is when you make one change in the system, you change everything in the system. So when I unburdened that 15-year-old part of me, when he came out of that place, the biggest change was one, he was back with us. It was a such a touch. It bring a tear to my eye, but it was such a touching moment when we realized that we can get him out. It was almost like he was on punishment for years and he couldn't come outside to play with us. But now he was out of that place and we welcomed him back. The other thing that happened was my other parts realized, wait a minute, we can do that? That's possible? We can actually change how we felt about this situation? So once that happened, all the other parts like, oh, what else could we do, right? And so now there's a different level of trust in the system. There's some excitement in the system, right? There's a belief that things don't have to be bad all the time, that we can maneuver through things that we didn't think was possible. And so that's where that system comes from. And that's the reason why one change, one unburdening, one healing can make a huge ripple effect in your entire system, in your entire life.
You know what I say? I say we do a live part mapping exercise. Let's go.
All right.
Let's do it, man. Let's show them a live demonstration. Either with me or like just do like a example of like what a boardroom would look like or what a
Mm-hmm.
part mapping, like maybe the U-turn or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
any
Okay.
kind of those exercises.
So here's what we'll do. So let's identify, and we're doing this because we was kind of late. We had some technical difficulties. So we want to give the audience something, especially those who are still here watching. And we want to let them know that we get started at 1 hour and 8 minutes. We're going to do this part mapping exercise. All right. Now, the part mapping exercise is going to require some paper. Right. Let me get some paper.
Audience, get paper and a pen.
All right. So there's several, and the great thing about IFS is so many tools, right? But the tool that I've been loving the most is the variations of part mapping, right? And the part mapping that we're going to do today is going to be the round table or the conference room part mapping exercise. And so what you're going to need some paper and you're going to need a pen. You can be creative with this and you can get some color pens, right? If you want to be creative. And so what you're going to do is you're going to draw an oval in the middle of the paper, kind of like to represent a table. All right, so here's mine, right? Just an oval. And then you're going to draw either a circle at the where you sit, right? So my circle is going to be here. This is where I'm sitting when I put my paper down. So that's going to represent you, like the top of your head, let's say, right? And then you're going to identify, like, what do you want the part map to be about, right? So let's give the audience some examples, Tony. What would they do a part mapping about?
Maybe a major decision. So it could be, let's say a move, like they're moving somewhere, or we can use something that might be more advantageous for the crowd. A relationship that they're having challenges with. It could be a significant other. It could be a friend or a family member. Everyone has this, right? So this could be a very universal part mapping exercise. Any kind of relationship that you're having challenges with.
Okay. So you're having challenge with relationship now. It could be coworker, it could be a job, it could be boss, it can be family member, son, daughter, mother, father, anything. So just think of a situation that you're having with your family. Now, I'm going to put the situation with I'm going to put my sister. All right. So my sister and I, our relationship has been once upon a time it was challenging, our relationship. Now our relationship is great, right? It feels so good, right? For me be connected to my sister in this way. So it's not an issue that I'm going to be discussing regarding my sister, but she's going to be the topic of my part map here. So you're going to identify whatever it is that you want to do regarding that, right? Whatever family member or whatever person or relationship. Now, the first thing you're going to do is we do something called going inside, right? And going inside or doing a check-in. A check-in is simply you taking some time. It could be seconds. You taking some time to check in which parts are up right now, which parts are active, and these if they're up or active based on what you're hearing. What are they saying? So when I think about my sister, I could say, okay, I go inside and I'll say, okay, we're going to be discussing my sister. Who here has an opinion on this situation, right? So the audience can do that. You go inside. Who here has an opinion? Then you listen. And then the first thing that comes up, you represent that on the paper, right? So the first thing that came up for me was we want to make sure my sister is good. We want to make sure everything that she's good. We're going, that she's all right, right? So how would that part want to be represented on the paper? Now you can draw it. You can do a drawing of it. Usually it's more creative if you do a drawing, and the drawing is not about art, right? However that part wants to be represented, or it can just be words, okay? And you want to identify, you write some things down so you can recognize what that part feels and represent it properly. And you'll make sure that am I representing you properly on this page? Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, boom. Then you go into what's next, what comes up next. So the next thing that comes up is my nephew, right? My sister's son, who looks just like me when I was a baby, right? So that's the next thing that comes up. Part of me wants to make sure that that's good, right? And then we can just keep going around. So then as you're going in, you'll identify what else. And then you'll keep doing this until you feel like you've gotten all the parts down on the table, right? So we're on a fast forward. People, you can pause. You can pause the video until you got everything. So you feel like you have all the parts down, and you represent them all on the table. And they're all around the table. So they will be. So if I'm doing it, it will be all around the table, right? You have them on the outside, and then you'll keep going. And then once you feel like you have all of the parts down, you'll do one last check-in and see if there's anybody else. Imagine if you were in a house and you're about to have a family meeting and you're knocking on every door, every bedroom door. Hey, we're about to have a meeting about whatever the situation is. We're about to have a meeting. Is everybody here? Yeah, everybody's here. Okay, everybody's here. Once you realize everybody's here, then you want to go through some around the questions to each of the parts, right? So that part of me that want to make sure she's good. Okay, what exactly do you want? What does it mean for her to be good? What does that mean? And then I have the part like, tell me. I'll go back. I'll do a check in it again. Like, what does it mean for her to be good? Then I'll listen. And I'll hear what the parts say. Okay, then I'll write that down, right? And then I'll do that to all the parts as well, just to get a little bit more information. And then once you identify what they want, you identify what's stopping them from getting what they want, right? So that first example, I want her to be good. Well, what's stopping her from being good right now? And then I'll listen to that part, and they will tell me what's stopping her. So I write that down, and then I go around the table too. Now, if you had if you was doing a part map on, you have a challenge with a person, then you may have a part that wants to separate or distance themselves from that person. And so you'll say, well, what are you afraid will happen if we didn't distance ourselves from that person? You know, what are you worried that will happen? You know, you can ask them the questions. Once you have all the parts on the table, you can start asking these questions. And when you're finished, right? When you have, you know, you ask them a couple questions, 3 or 4 questions, you have this understanding of who's activated, which parts are surrounding this situation. And the beautiful thing is, if you just ask a person, how do you feel about, like, if you ask me, how do I feel about my sister, and I didn't knew about this part thing, I'm like, oh, it's good, everything's good. Or yeah, or I would say the one thing, yeah, I'm just want to make sure she's all good. You know, I wouldn't have all these other answers because I'm only thinking about the part that I believe I am, or the parts of me that's my front line parts, my starting lineup of parts. They will be the only ones that would give me answers. And since they're the only ones that give me answers, then I don't really dive deeper into what's happening. And if I don't dive deeper into what's happening, when I'm involved in this situation, some of those other parts that I'm not aware of, they get activated. They start communicating, they start acting out, or they may hijack, right? And so as you go through this, you'll start having some data on the parts that are involved. And then you could take this map and you could look at it throughout your day, and you could notice when you're around that person or that situation, which part get activated, what gets activated. So if I call my sister up right now, which part of me is going to be activated? Okay, I got that part. When she said that, that part got activated by that. That part had an opinion on that, right? When she said this, that part had an opinion on that, right? And so you'll get to realize how your internal family works when it comes to this topic. And so that's a part map exercise that folks can do at home.
Yeah, Ty didn't know I was going to do that to him. But anyone who knows me knows I always throw a loop in there. You know, you got to do it. And we have a great audience with really good patience, and we appreciate you guys' patience and all that stuff. I don't have any more questions on my end. Is there anything you wanted to add, Ty, before we close it off?
I guess I'll leave them with the notion that that understanding how to heal in this way is a beautiful thing. You'll realize that you'll become more connected to yourself. You'll realize that you'll start healing issues that you have with your family, especially if you had issues with your mother, your father, whether they're here or not here, right? If they're here, you can repair years, decades of pain and issues, right? By first healing yourself, healing those parts that hold that pain or hold that worry. When you start having that, you start having much more connection with the outside world. So if you all want to follow me, check out the book, right? Check out the book. Sign up to get emails from me on my website. If you want to do any IFS sessions with me, send me a private message and I'll send you a link, you know, or send Tony a private message. He'll send you a link and you can book some private sessions on me with me. And for those, one IFS session is extremely powerful. I've had guys who got on the call with me who were, you know, they spoke to their therapist and the therapist said they want to get them on meds, you know, for depression. And they were like, Ty, should I go get the meds or should I talk to you first? And I was like, let's talk to me. Let's see how it goes. Now, I'm not saying that the meds going, that everyone either say, oh, forget my meds and let me go do IFS. I'm not saying that. However, when we had that session, he was stuck being depressed. And I showed him how to maneuver out of that in one session, right? I showed him how to unblend from that part that had that pain. And simply being able to unblend allowed him to see a different path that he could take, right? That can happen for everyone. Okay, so I'll leave you all with that. Reach out to me if you need anything. If my book moved you, let me know, share it. I want the world to see that and hear it because my goal is truly to heal the world because I want to bring us all back to being kids again. That's when life was fun. We was able to be playful and joyful. We can all be that because majority of us are still kids in adult bodies.
Right on. Absolutely. And testimonial for myself, again, you know, it's nice to know that I'm completely healed, completely calm and cool and collected in very crazy situations because I know that I'm being self-led versus part-led. And the parts have a major contribution to me as a self-led person. And also I recommended someone to Ty last week and they were completely blended with their parts, couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, tossing and turning. And within one session, I got a text from him saying, "Thank you so much, man. This literally has transformed me in one session." He's going to go back for another session, but it's just remarkable the work you're doing, Ty. And I'm glad that I'm going to be able to help you in this situation and bringing that to these kids, and also bringing it to my community and different coaching styles that we're doing coming up forward. And so you can reach me at Anthony@BigHillMovers.com and all my parts, or you can text or call 978-421-6033, and you can reach Ty. And where did you say, Ty? Could you repeat that one more time before we ended it? And the
Yeah, if they want to email me, they can email me at ty@tykutner.com. I put the link for the book inside the comments there, so you can check that out. You can DM me right here on Facebook. I'm not really on Facebook that much, but I'll see your DM at some point. Yeah, just email me. Just go to the book. If you want some sessions, let me know what you're going through, and then we can get to that point.
Or you can reach out to me and I'll connect you guys that way too, if for some reason we don't find any links. All right,
Definitely.
everyone. Thank you for your time today, and let's freaking roll.
Nice.